Hey, I heard you want to shoot a film. In fact, I heard you pulled in some pretty good favors and got some pretty decent equipment, actually. Good stuff. Have you ever thought about what happens if any of that equipment gets damaged or lost or stolen? I mean, you signed for it, right? It's kind of your price to pay. That's a lot of debt. What would you do with that kind of debt? Live under a bridge? Maybe even flee the country? But actually, if you plan ahead, I think we can get it to a point where you aren't buried in debt and you don't have to watch your life slowly and tragically crumble around you. Talking about a little thing called insurance.
I'm talking about a little place called Aspen.
So today we're going to talk about equipment insurance and film production insurance. I'm going to give little tips, first-hand stuff along the way, and there's a bonus tip at the end if you feel like actually learning something today.
You're a lazy fucker.
First off, this obviously isn't professional legal or insurance advice. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an insurance specialist. This is just stuff that I wish I would have known at the start because it would have saved me a lot of time and stress. So use your own common sense, do your own research, and seek out legal advice if you need it. Because your project specifications, your production structure, and your region might have very specific and very different requirements. Okay, let's jump right in. So the essential insurances you're probably going to need are equipment insurance and film production insurance. We'll start with equipment insurance. So basically, when you're renting from a rental house, they don't provide you with a bundle that basically insures your equipment and gives you it, which means you need to insure the equipment you're renting externally. Great, another expense for your already tight budget, I know. So when you're budgeting, try to keep in mind and factor in the fact that you are going to have to pay external insurance on top of the price you're paying for the rental equipment. Because if you secure some insane deals at your rental house, just remember that insane deals are also insanely expensive to insure. I mean, I was once at a point where I got such a good deal that the rental price was matching the price of the insurance. I don't regret it, but just something to keep in mind when you're budgeting. You need to get a list from your rental house of the value as new of the equipment you're renting. This basically just lists off all of the items you're renting and how much they cost to buy originally as new. And there's a total at the end. Some rental houses will just give you a total overall, but the point is you need in writing the value of what you're renting so that you can pass this on to your insurance broker and then they'll be able to give you a quote based off of this value. Speaking of insurance brokers, you're going to want to find an insurance broker that's specific to your industry. In our case, that means you're looking for an entertainment insurance broker. They're basically aware of the risks and coverage that you'll need, and they'll have specific insurance bundles and packages that will suit your kind of project. Also, make sure to do some research and ask around before you settle on one. You want to see that you get a fair price, and maybe also check reviews to see for people who submitted claims that they got their money back and what it was like dealing with the insurance broker. So the entertainment insurance broker will be able to sort you out with the kind of coverage you need. So things like rental equipment insurance, which we just discussed, but also more specific risk insurances, like let's say you're doing an underwater shoot, or a lot of stunts, or things with cars. They can basically sort you out with that. They can also sort you out with film production insurance, which is fairly essential, I would say. Film production insurance basically covers the major risks that most productions might have to face. And there's some location owners who won't let you step a foot on their property without showing proof of it. Basically, they want to know that if you let a bunch of degenerate film professionals onto their property and they break something, that your insurance will cover it. Because we all know by the end of that production, they're not going to be able to squeeze a cent out of you.
Marvin, I've been broke before.
You're not broke, you're bankrupt.
This is specifically referring to general or public liability insurance, which kind of falls under the film production insurance you're taking out. And it covers things like bodily harm and property damage as a result of the shoot. Now, the minimum coverage I think you can get for this is something like up to €1 million in damages, but the policies I've seen and taken out are typically up to €5 million in damages because some locations will ask for a certain level of coverage. Now, the coverage you need will depend on your specific production and the locations you're shooting in and so on, so make sure you get the coverage you need. Film production insurance will often also cover the costs of having to put your shoot on hold, like let's say a key cast member gets injured. Like, for example, Tom Cruise breaking his ankle on the shoot of Mission Impossible. There are endless amounts of scenarios that film production insurance can cover, from technical issues like faulty hard drives to cash getting stolen from the production office. The main thing is that you cover your major risks with your policy without it getting too expensive for your budget. So get covered and get your certificate of insurance, and then you can wave it around in people's faces like a pack of condoms so they know how safe you are. Now remember that your insurance policy covers specific regions and a specific time frame. So if you take out a short-term policy and you're only covering your shoot days, and let's say you damage some equipment when loading the day before you shoot, you're not fucking covered. So make sure you don't cut corners here. Now, I've never had to make any insurance claims for any of my own productions because I'm a stone cold professional.
Don't break an arm jerking yourself off.
But from having been in production offices where I have to deal with insurance claims occasionally, it's not fun. So make sure you know what your policy does and does not cover before you step a single foot on set. Predict your risks and cover them. That way you can take calculated risks and not stupid ones. And if you're not sure about your coverage, ask them. That's why you have a contact to your insurance provider, so that you can ask specific questions. So let's say you send a picture and say, hey, this is our van, we're thinking of storing equipment in here, what should we keep in mind for our insurance coverage? And they'll probably give you some answer like, hey, the equipment shouldn't be visible from outside, and if it's being stored in there overnight, it should be in a guarded parking lot, blah, 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 something like this. But the point is, you now, if you wrote this by email, you have this dated and in writing, which is great for if some issue comes along later. You know, if you can, document everything so that maybe your driver takes a picture of the van so that you know all the conditions are right when it's done, blah, 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 blah. This all seems like overkill till something happens and your insurance is like, no, we're not covering that. Because that's their fucking business model, is not paying out to you and just taking in the money from the policies. So you need to make sure you don't give them a single reason not to make a payout. Because basically, if you make a mistake and end up getting financially ruined because the insurance won't cover it, you might never make a film again. Or do anything for that matter.
I'm ruined.
By the way, if this is boring the tits off you, good. I'm glad you're enjoying that luxury, because it won't seem so boring when the Alexa you rented falls into a bathtub and the insurance say they won't cover it because you didn't inform them of a heightened risk of water damage. Speaking of irreversible damages, another important aspect is the insurance deductible. This is basically the limit after which the insurance will start to pay for something. So you make a claim and the damages you caused are, let's say, €1,000, and your insurance deductible is set to €250, that means you need to pay that first €250 regardless of the claim, and then the insurance will cover the remainder. So in this case, €750. Insurance companies basically do this to avoid the amount of small claims they have to deal with, which is fair enough, because otherwise there'd be a shitstorm of paperwork because you lost your favorite pen and want it covered for €2. Now, if at all possible, I would try to set this insurance deductible to 0, so that in the case of a covered claim, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Of course, this does mean your policy is going to be more expensive, but that's what it is with insurance. You're essentially balancing the risk you're willing to take versus the budget you have available to you. You know, how much can you pay for the insurance versus how much coverage it'll provide you with.
I speak Spanish.
Hey, you made it this far into a video about insurance? Good job. For that, I have a little surprise for you. This is a bonus tip. What the fuck is a completion bond? Now, if you didn't know the previous stuff, I'm guessing this won't be quite relevant for you yet, but the intention is always to work at the highest possible level. So let's talk about completion bonds. This is an insurance that's taken out to ensure that the film is completed. Pretty straightforward. But also that if the film isn't completed, that the investors and financiers get their money back. Let's take a specific example. Let's say you secured the funding for your film. Nice.
Give me that.
But the investors seem a bit skittish about you being able to actually follow through with the film. Maybe they're not fully sure about how realistic your shooting schedule is, or one of the key cast has a history of dropping out of projects, or maybe they just think you're weak and you'll buckle under the pressure.
Relax, I got this.
In any case, they want to guarantee that the film will get made or that they'll get their money back. In this case, they're going to want a film completion bond, in which case a film bond company will act as a guarantor. Essentially that if you don't deliver the film on time, they have the right to take over production and get the film finished by any means necessary. That could mean hiring people, that could mean firing people, that could mean changing the shooting schedule or changing things about the cash flow. It could be any number of variables. But like any insurance company, they're going to do whatever it takes not to make a payout, because in the event that they can't get the film finished, they have to repay the investors the amount of money that they put into the film. You might say, what do I need this for? I know that I can deliver my fucking film. I'm more invested in it than anyone else. Yeah, but it's not for you, it's for the investors. Just like with the location owner that won't let you step a foot on their property without seeing film production insurance, There are investors who won't give you a cent unless they see that you're going to secure a completion bond. It's that simple. And let me tell you, that shit ain't cheap. That's going to land somewhere between 3 and 5% of your net budget, and it can vary greatly depending on the risk assessment that the film bond company makes. But, you know, it's something to keep in mind for down the line. For now, focus on the essentials. Film equipment insurance to cover your gear, and film production insurance to cover your shoot. Make sure that you consider your specific insurance needs for that project. So basically, what risk is going wrong, and how much will it cost me? Then find suitable insurance providers and get a fair price. Cover your ass and have a great shoot. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Now get the fuck out of here and make your film.
Oh!